I would like to start by sharing a story with you. It's a story some of you may have heard me tell before, because I tell it a lot, because it has touched me very, very deeply. And it is, for me, a poignant example of the kind of love that we are called to practice. Last summer, I was visiting some of the First Nations communities in northern Manitoba, and I went to Fisher River. And we just had a sort of informal gathering of folks from the church who, we just had some supper together and we were chatting. And what I knew, what I had been told before I got to Fisher River, is that this was a community that had really struggled in the church. The United Church community was really struggling because there were some who wanted to introduce the smudge and the drum to church, and others who were saying absolutely no way. Some of the elders were extremely opposed to bringing in those traditional elements into the church, because of course they had been taught by our ancestors in faith that those things were of the devil, and that they had no place in the church, and that they were wrong. And that lesson had sunk in. And so I knew that this was a live, challenging topic. Anyway, so the conversation was going along, and people were telling me all kinds of things about the church, and then there was this sort of lull, and I thought, well, dare I ask? So I said, I have a question for y'all. And they said, sure. And I said, I'm wondering where your congregation's at with traditional Indigenous spirituality stuff. I asked it very gently. And then one guy sitting at the end of the table, he says, well, I could say something about that. I says, great. And he said, my name is Sheldon. And all I knew about Sheldon so far from the original set of introductions is that he was the chair of the property committee. I knew that much about him. And he said, I am a traditional person. Oh, great. So I follow the traditional ways. I'm not a Christian. Okay? He said, I hated Christians. I hated them passionately. I was so angry with Christians because of what they did to my people and my community. He said, when the missionaries came to this community, not only did they tell us that our ways were wrong, but they actually came with different versions of Christianity, and they told us that the other versions of Christianity were wrong, and that we should shun anybody who followed a different way. And so they split our community, and our community remains split to this day. He says, and I hated the church for the damage that they've done here. He said, that hatred was eating me up inside. He said that hatred was leading me into all kinds of self-destructive paths. And I had started on a healing journey for myself, and I got only so far along my healing journey when I realized that to go any further, I needed to address this hatred that was poisoning me and poisoning my life. So this is what I did. I went to church. He says, I went to church because I knew that the only way that I could recover from my hatred was to get to know those church people I despised as my neighbors. I needed to know them as human beings and to see them as human beings. So I started going to church. He said it was so hard for me to sit there. But I went back week after week, and I started to get to know these people. And I discovered that they are lovely people, that they are beautiful human beings. These people are part of my family now. He says, I have many friends who are traditional, who say, why do you go there? You shouldn't go there. Those people are bad. But I tell them, no, those people are my family too. And I love them. He says, I'm still not a Christian. I don't need to be a Christian. But I am part of this community, and I contribute by chairing the property committee. I was speechless. But then somebody else spoke up. One of the elders in the community spoke up and said, the other thing that's happened because of Sheldon, because of his presence and involvement in our church, is that we've started using the drum in worship. He's helped us see that the things we thought had no place together, maybe can come together. And I share that story with you because I think it goes to the heart of why we need it. The one that I follow was Jesus. This is the first and last thing he says to his followers. Love one another. Love one another the way I have loved you. Love one another without condition. Love one another when it hurts. Love one another when it's hard. He said, in fact, in case we didn't get it, love especially your enemies. Those who you think are your enemies. Those you would be enemies with. Whether it's because they have hurt you or because you just don't like them or how they do things. Those are the people you need to practice loving. Because, of course, those are the hardest people to love. And we need to love everyone. We need to love everyone because we can't be human, I think. We can't be human, fully human, if we're hating our relatives. So, I'm very aware that to love this way is very difficult. And I know for myself, I can't just do it. I find I don't just have it in me to love the people that I just really don't want to even like. It's something that I have to practice. It's actually a spiritual discipline. And what I have found for myself is that the only way that I can live that kind of love is, first of all, by immersing myself in a spiritual practice that grounds me every day in the love of God. Because it is only the love of God that can love the way I need to love. And it is God's love, I believe, it is God's love acting in me that allows me to love that way. And so I need to be grounded in God's love. So it's a spiritual discipline for me to ground myself every day in that love. Remember that I am absolutely beloved. And that everyone I meet is absolutely beloved. That God loves each and every one of you just exactly how God loves me. And it's when I can see you with those eyes that I just want to know you. I just want to love you. I want to bridge the differences between us. So that for me is a spiritual practice. And then it's standing up when I see hatred, when I see harm being done to anybody. Part of that spiritual practice is to not accept that, to not tolerate it. If each and every one of you is my relative, then I need to stand up for you the same way I stand up for my daughter, the same way I stand up for my partner. If I love you, then I can't tolerate somebody not loving you. The problem is I have to love the person who's not loving you too. So it's hard, right? Loving doesn't mean accepting hateful behavior. I can love the hater. I have to love the hater without tolerating the hate. It's hard work. What I know is I need community to do that. I need people to support me in that, and I need people that I can bounce ideas off of and say, how do we do this? How do we do this? I can't do it on my own. You can't do it on your own either. None of us can, and we're not supposed to. We need one another. We need one another in community. We need diverse communities, places, safe places where we can practice loving across all kinds of difference so that we get good at it. It's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. I think love is also, it's like a garden. You know, there's actually all kinds of things that grow in a garden, and it's the ones that we water and tend that will grow healthy, the ones that don't belong that we need to pluck up. But if we ignore, and I think of hate as the stuff that needs to be plucked up, if we ignore the hate, just like if we ignore the weeds, you can nurture all kinds of good things, but the weeds will take over. We need to address hatred when it comes into our communities. We need to address hatred when it comes into our hearts. We need to address hatred when it enters our language or somebody else's. We need to address it with love, but address it so that we can nurture in our communities that which we want to grow. So that is what I invite you to join me in, that challenging but life-giving work of becoming fully human by loving each and every one of our neighbors. And thank you for coming out here tonight, because it says to all of us that everyone here desires to walk in the path of love, to find out how we might do that together.